For most of you, this is it. This is championship week. This is what we have played all year for, and this is the most crucial time. You do not want to miss what happened in week 16 that could impact your chances in week 17. I'm breaking down 10 of the most important takeaways from last week that could help you this week. And I think we got to start with Jayden Daniels, who probably pretty much wrapped up the Rookie of the Year award on Sunday with that amazing comeback against the Eagles. No, he wasn't perfect in that game, but man, if you started him in fantasy, you are so glad you did. 5 touchdowns in that huge comeback win, plus a bunch of rushing yards. We got so many questions on our streams all week, like Jayden Daniels or not that great of a QB, which one do I start? We always said Jayden Daniels. It was always Jayden Daniels, and guess what? This week, it's Jayden Daniels. I don't care who he plays. He plays the Falcons, which isn't a terrible matchup, but I don't care who it is. I don't care if it was the 85 Bears. You are starting Jayden Daniels. If you come on our stream and ask Jayden Daniels or any QB not named, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts assuming he plays, of course, you're getting blocked. You're getting put in timeout. You're getting kicked off the stream. You start Jayden Daniels this week. No questions asked. He is matchup proof, obviously, when healthy. And I feel the same way about Brian Thomas Jr. This guy looks absolutely matchup proof right now. Over the last 5 games, he's got 80 or more yards in 4 of those games. He's gotten over 100 yards in 2 of those games, and he's scored 3 touchdowns. And you look at him over that stretch, he is the wide receiver 7 in PPR scoring, averaging 21.9 points per game. And it's not like he's had a cush schedule. Yes, he's had some nice matchups, but he also had to go against the Tennessee Titans secondary, had to go against the Jets, and he came through in both of those matchups. If it wasn't for the fact that Jayden Daniels was playing so well, Brian Thomas Jr. might have a case for at least offensive Rookie of the Year. But regardless, this is a guy you have to have in your fantasy lineup. He also looks absolutely matchup proof and even quarterback proof because even Mac Jones hasn't been able to hold him back. The next big takeaway from week 16 is stop worrying about the weather so much. I mean, really, we got so many questions about that Seattle weather. People wondering, can they play Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, DK Metcalf, and yes, we even got questions asking if they could play Justin Jefferson in the, torrential downpour monsoon that was supposed to hit Seattle. Was there even a drop of rain in that game? I'm being serious. I don't remember ever seeing rain in that game at all. Maybe there was a little bit, but it obviously did not impact the game whatsoever or the fantasy production of those players. Sure, every now and then there are crazy weather games like that Buffalo 49ers snow game, and I guess that 49ers Rams game, but really it was only one quarter that was bad in that game. But most of the time, weather is way, way overblown in fantasy and in real life. Unless we hear it's going to be, a hurricane or a blizzard or something really crazy, don't worry about the weather. Just start your better players. It's football. These guys can handle a little weather, unlike everybody out here in Southern California. And hey, if we helped you at all this fantasy football season, just a quick ask, could you hit that like button and subscribe? We'd greatly appreciate it. And speaking of that Seattle game, if there is any doubt who the wide receiver 1 is in Seattle, there should be no doubt now. It is absolutely Jaxon. Smith-Njigba has absolutely taken over this receiving game. Not only did he lead the team with 95 yards and 12 targets in that game, since week 9, he is the wide receiver 5, averaging over 21 points per game in fantasy. He has more than doubled DK Metcalf's fantasy points over that stretch. He's the 8th highest wide receiver in terms of target share, and he's the 12th best in terms of first read percentage. I think, much like Brian Thomas Jr., this is a guy you have to get in your fantasy lineups regardless of the matchup, regardless of who they're playing. He has been so good, you cannot bench this guy. My next big takeaway from week 16 is I've seen enough. I am convinced now that if Hollywood Brown had never gotten hurt in that first preseason game, he would have absolutely smashed this season. He only ran 33% of the routes in week 16, yet he was second on the team with 8 targets, only 3 less than Xavier Worthy. And he also had 2 of the most important catches for the Chiefs that kept drives alive and led to scores for this team. I am convinced that Andy Reid would have unlocked this guy's potential. We saw a glimpse of it in week 16. The way they used this guy over the middle, they didn't have that this year. They needed this. He is this missing piece. And look, we might finally see what he could have done the rest of the way. It's probably too late for fantasy. Maybe you can flex him this week, but we're going to get a glimpse of what this guy could have done from now until however long the Chiefs play, which might even be all the way to the Super Bowl. And I am convinced that Hollywood Brown, had he been healthy, would have smashed. And unfortunately, Jerry Jeudy is probably not going to smash once again in week 17. With Jameis Winston bench and Dorian Thompson-Robinson under center, it was a disaster. There is no other way to say it. If you started Jerry Jeudy, you're probably not playing in week 17. What a bust. You look at Jerry Jeudy, outside of the games that Jameis Winston has started, he is the wide receiver 57 on the season. Absolutely horrible. It's really shocking to me. You look at Jerry Jeudy's entire career, he has been mostly terrible, except for the games Jameis Winston started. I guess if this guy can team up with Jameis Winston next year, he can be great, but if it's anybody else, he's probably going to be awful, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be Jameis Winston in week 17. Now, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is dealing with a calf injury. Head coach Kevin Stefanski did say if he's good to go, he'll start. But on Sunday, Jameis wasn't even the backup. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. It was Bailey Zappi. There is no way you can start Jerry Jeudy in week 17 if it's DTR or Bailey Zappi. If somehow, some miraculous way, Jameis Winston gets to start again and you're still alive with Jeudy, sure, fire him up. But outside of that, no chance. But you can definitely fire up the Patrick Mahomes new customer special on Underdog. If he gets 1 yard on Christmas Day, which I feel pretty good about, you are going to win that pick. Just make sure you join using promo code ENDGAME to get that free pick, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash that you can use right away. The next big takeaway from week 16 was Jonathan Taylor atoned for the previous week in a major way. Over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 huge long runs in this game. If you survived his boneheaded drop of the football in week 15, he rewarded you by basically winning your matchup in week 16. Assuming somebody doesn't do something crazy on Monday Night Football, which I highly doubt, he's going to be the #1 scoring player in all of fantasy this week. Jonathan Taylor said, I'm sorry for week 15. I'm sorry for what I did, but here, let me repay you in the biggest way possible. And he gets another great matchup this week. I think he's now back into the must-start territory. You have to play Jonathan Taylor. And unfortunately, I don't think you have to play Isaiah Pacheco, because is Kareem Hunt back to being the RB1 in Kansas City? What is going on here? After coming back from that injury, it looked like Pacheco was slowly starting to retake over the backfield. And then 2 weeks ago, it was a true 50-50 split. And then last week, Kareem Hunt actually had 11 carries to Pacheco's 9, 3 targets to Pacheco's 2. And he sadly got the goal line carry. I don't know why they are doing this. Maybe Pacheco is still getting into shape. Maybe they're trying to save him for the playoffs. Maybe he's still dealing with the injury. I don't know. Maybe all of the above. But the fact is, you cannot trust Isaiah Pacheco right now, splitting with Kareem Hunt. Sure, he or Hunt could definitely fall into the end zone. They are in this Chiefs offense. But is that really what you want in week 17? Hoping a guy falls into the end zone? Look, Isaiah Pacheco was one of my guys this year. I thought he would absolutely smash, but looks like with that serious leg injury, it's just not going to happen for him this year. Maybe 2025 will be that year, but please don't do it in week 17. And Chig Okonkwo was definitely not one of my guys this year, but he is looking like a league winner right now, and he is still out there on a ton of waiver wires. And I'm going to say right now, there are not many tight ends I would start over Chig. Over the last 2 games, he is the highest scoring tight end in PPR leagues. He has 17 catches for 140 yards. Even without a touchdown, he is the highest scoring tight end in PPR, and he's second behind only Brock Bowers in first read percentage over that stretch. And by that stretch, I mean the stretch where Mason Rudolph came in and replaced Will Levis, because before that, he was doing nothing. All year, he had really done nothing. But obviously here in week 16 and the second half of week 15, when Rudolph came in, he has been a monster, and there is no reason to think it's going to stop this week in championship week, because they get the Jacksonville Jaguars. If Chig Okonkwo is still on your waiver wire and you have any tight end not named Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, George Kittle, Jonnu Smith, or David Njoku, actually, even if you have David Njoku, go get Chig, because he's now dealing with a knee injury. But if you don't have one of those tight ends, Chig Okonkwo is a must play this week. And then finally, the biggest takeaway, and this is a lesson that applies to every season, is consider being charitable with your winnings this year if you do happen to win. Look, Jalen Hurts carried teams all year, left that game early, probably cost you a trip to the championship. Josh Allen busted big time this week, as did Mixon and many other studs. If you are still playing in week 17 for your championship, sure, you probably had a great draft. You probably made a ton of good waiver wire moves, but you probably got at least a little bit lucky too. And remember, there are people out there that aren't as lucky as us. They are dealing with things we can't even imagine, and they're not able to play this fun, crazy game that we all love. So if you happen to win your fantasy football championship this year, and there is money involved, I urge you to at least try to donate a little bit of your winnings to whatever charity resonates with you the best. Not only will you feel good about being a champion, but you'll also feel good about the fact that you went out and helped somebody not as fortunate as yourself. And of course, if you are still playing this week, good luck. We hope you take down that title. And we got everything you need to help you. Make sure you come back and check out our Week 17 playlist with all the Star Sit advice you need right here.